Hi everyone, welcome to the Procreate Basic series. My name is Haze and today we are going to learn all about adjustments. It's adjustments tutorial part 1 and it is episode 12. So in today's tutorial, we'll be learning all about hue, saturation and brightness, curves and color balance. We will also learn how to use the layer mode and the pencil mode. So before we get started, remember to like, comment and subscribe.
Okay, to get started with today's tutorial, I'm gonna launch Procreate. This is the project I have right now, and we're gonna work on adjustments today, which is this tab. So we're gonna go through all of these quickly. So right here, the first one we have is hue, saturation and brightness, and if you tap on that, you can see that there's a layer and pencil, and everything has the same thing except for Liquify and Clone. But let me just show you what hue, saturation and brightness does first before I go into the layer and the pencil thing. Okay, so the default function before Procreate roll out this new feature is the layer one. So this is what you get previously, which you apply the changes to the entire layer itself. So right now, look at this image. I feel that the hand is too light, maybe, right? So I want to change the color of the hand. The hand is not the correct color. So I'm going to tap the hand layer and select it, and I'm going to tap on hue, saturation and brightness. Then this brings out 3 tabs: hue, saturation and brightness. Hue, you change the color. Saturation, you change it to either more gray or more vibrant. Brightness, darker or lighter. So I want to make it darker, right, to match the face. So I'm going to change it and make sure it's darker so that it matches the face. But I see that once it's darker, it gets a bit dull. So I want to increase the vibrancy because it looks dull now. So I'm going to increase the saturation. And now I think that it quite matches the face. Maybe I think the color is wrong, so I'm going to change the color itself. So now I change all values already and I think that this is correct. So I'm just going to tap on the adjustment menu to complete my transformation. So there we go, we have adjusted like the hand only because it's in a separate layer. So now maybe I want to adjust the face. So I think that maybe the highlights is a bit much. So I want to adjust the highlights. So I'm going to use back the same hue, saturation and brightness tool, but this time I'm going to pick the pencil. Okay, so I won't know what's happening until I do something here. So how do I get my changes to show up? So I'm going to just paint something first. Oh, now it's magenta because I switched it to magenta. So okay, that means anything that I do here in these sliders will only apply to the areas that I paint or erase or smudge. So now my goal is to reduce the intensity of the brightness, right? So maybe I need a soft brush to do that. So first I'm just gonna highlight like all the areas that I want to fix. Okay, so I've highlighted all of them. I don't want this to be so bright, so I'm gonna turn down the brightness. First, let's pick back the color. The original value is at 50. So this is going to be more bright, so I want it not so bright. So this is less intense, which is kind of good. But I need to be more saturated because it has become dull. So I think that this change is quite good. And then I'm just going to commit the changes by tapping on the adjustment tab. And I'm going to show you how it looks like before. Before it looks like this, and now it looks like this. So you can actually use this function to do things like this. And it applies to all the adjustments here where you can selectively paint in the values.
And now we're gonna move on to color balance. And here I have a portrait here and I want to adjust the color for this portrait because maybe I'm not very happy with it. I'm gonna go into adjustments and tap on color balance and tap on layer because I want to adjust the whole thing. And then here we see 3 sliders. So the first one is cyan and red. So the reason why it is cyan and red is because they're both opposite colors. So if I launch my color picker and go to the color wheel, you can see here that the cyan is here and the red is here. And then the magenta is here and the green is here, which is this pair, and then yellow is here and blue is here, so they are all in opposite directions. And that's why they are in this format. And then we have this sun icon here, and if we tap on it, we see 3 options: shadows, midtones, and highlights. So you can adjust the colors for just the shadows, or just the midtones, or just the highlights. So let's adjust the shadows first. I want to make it like an Instagram filter, so maybe the shadows has to be blue, like this, and I want the midtones to be slightly more pink. And as for the highlights, I want to really warm up the color, so I'm bumping up the reds and the yellows. So this can be used to recolor the entire layer, and you can use it to change the mood of any portrait, so it's very useful. And of course, you can also use the pencil mode to selectively change certain parts of the painting only. So let's say now I want to change a portrait to be a bit more angelic and ethereal, and right now you can see that the shadows are very dark and it's very punchy. So now we can actually use the curves tool to adjust this. So let's launch the adjustment tab and tap on curves and tap on layer to adjust the entire layer. And here we will see a complicated graph with a crazy amount of settings. So if we tap on red or green or blue and then make some changes to the setting, you can see that the colors are changing, it's getting brighter, darker. So we have no idea what's really going on, but don't worry, I'm going to walk you through every single one of the settings. Gamma just means all red, green, and blue. So if you adjust the gamma, you will actually adjust the brightness and the darkness of the painting. It's very straightforward. And remember when we were using the color balance, what's opposite of red? It was cyan. So if I bring this up, you can see that the image is getting more red. And if I bring this area down, you can see that the image is getting more cyan. So this works exactly the same as the color balance, and it works in pairs. And if you are in green and you bring this node up, it gets more green, and if you bring this node down, it gets more magenta. It's actually quite predictable once you have memorized all the pairs of opposing colors. And blue, it will be blue and yellow, so if I push this up, it will be blue, and if I pull this down, it will be yellow. So you can actually use curves to control the colors for the entire portrait without using the color balance tool. In color balance, we have shadows, midtones, and highlights, and we have the same thing here. So here is shadows, here is midtones, and here is highlights. For the color balance, we have the sun icon to control them, but here we don't have to. We can just easily add nodes to control them, like right here. So back to our original objective of adjusting just the brightness of the portrait, we can just go back to gamma mode to adjust it. We know that this is highlights, and this is midtones, and this is shadows. I don't want the shadows to be too dark, so I'm gonna push this node up. We can see that everything is getting brighter, but I don't want to lose all the details in the midtones and the highlights. So what do? I'm gonna add a node in the midtone section and pull it down to get back some of the midtones. The lower I go, the darker the midtones will be, and if my point is lower than the shadows, you can see that the shadows are brighter than my midtones. This is because the node for the shadow is a lot higher than the node for the midtones, so the shadows end up being brighter. This means that my midtone node cannot be any lower than my shadow node, but I can bump the highlight node up and also the midtone node up to get the effect that I want. So this is as far as I go if I want to edit the curves for a portrait that I want to make her brighter and have a more angelic and ethereal feeling. But I can also choose to go the other way around. This will really darken the midtones and the shadows and be an opposite effect of what I did before. So it depends on what you want to do, if you want to brighten or darken the portrait, or you want to recolor the portrait entirely.
Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. Remember to catch tomorrow's tutorial. This is a continuation from today's tutorial of adjustments. We will continue exploring adjustments tomorrow, so I'll see you tomorrow. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye!